Hi, my name is Eric and welcome back to the channel. So I thought maybe we'd kind of do a video on fencers, electric fencers, solar fencers, and how they actually work. And this isn't just for newbies, this is for old timers that, are having problems with their electric fence for the cows. So the first thing is, what is a fencer? Well, a fencer is something that takes and energizes whatever, whether it be poly or steel, and it travels around. And when an animal touches it and their feet are on the ground, they ground themselves with the fence and they get a shock. There's not one that's going to kill them. It's just, it'll make them back up. So there's three kinds of fencers, three types. One is the electric, and that is you plug it into a 110 outlet, and that's what powers up the fencer. The second one is your solar fences, solar fencers, and we use those where we want to open up a meadow like down back where it's not feasible to run a power line all the way to it, and it charges itself with the sunlight. And then the other style, which I don't use simply because I don't need it, are ones that are run off a regular car or truck battery. And those you simply have alligator clips and you just clip it to the positive and negative, and that acts as a fencer. I thought we'd go over, the different parts of a fencer and how it actually works. So when I first got back into farming, I was having problems with our fencers of not putting out enough. And the first thing we did was we thought maybe something was shorting it out, in the system, in the loop. And that wasn't the case. And I went and I talked to a neighbor that's got 300 mama cows, and I said, look, Jeff, how do you keep these girls in here and you've only got one strand fence? I'm running a 4 strand and mine are still getting out. And he said, ground. What? He said, you don't have enough ground. And a lot of these fencer companies recommend 2, maybe 3 grounds. It depends on your area, but in our area, in the summertime, it dries out pretty good. But we had 2 ground rods, hooked up to our electric fencer, and it wasn't keeping them in. It wasn't enough of a bite that they were walking right through it. So he said, I have 4 grounds on my fence, and if you see even a piece of grass hit it, you'll hear it snapping. So I went and I bought 2 more ground rods, put them in 3 foot apart, 3 or 5 foot apart. And just by doing that on an electric fencer, the cows could even hear that fencer was on. It had like a hum to them. And didn't have any more problems with animals getting out. So the 2 types, there's more than 2 types of actual fence that you can put up. Like the one I would recommend is the poly. The poly has steel cords inside of it, and it's easy to handle, and it's great if you're putting up temporary fences or rotational grazing, because you can put these right onto a reel, and I'll show later on in the video the different style reels that you can have. So you have steel line, which is just a solid steel cable. You have the poly, which is like this, and then you also have a poly that a lot of people with horses like to use, that's about that thick, and it's all white so that the horses can see where the fence is. But it has the same characteristics as the poly. The main thing is you want the juice traveling through this line. And the biggest thing is we want to make sure that there's nothing grounding it in the system, like grass growing up and folding over it, like one of the fence holders getting broke and it's up against a cedar fence post or a steel fence post, and it's causing it to ground so that you're not getting a good feed around. So we have 3 types of fence holders that I use. The first one, these go on the T-style steel fence posts, and you just simply clip it on, and then you have your wire hooks through here. The other style is for like cedar fence posts, that you can just screw it in and then run your fence through here. Another style is the screw in, which we use the most because they seem to hold up a lot better. They're a little bit more money, but these here just screw in, and there's a tool that comes with them that you can get online, and you can run them in with the drill, and you just loop them through. And the nice thing with these, if I want to tighten up the fence without having to strain all the thing, you can just loop it within the loop and you're all right. And it's a rubber thing. For corner posts, I like using these. The downfall is it's got to go through there, so you can't unhook and hook it up. But it's a good corner so that you can get a good angle and stuff without getting it shorted out. But that's the big thing, is making sure that your fencer is grounded good. So I'm gonna kind of show and tell. I did another video outside working on the fencers so that I could show you. Well, like this one here is a solar fencer, and you have on the bottom your ground, which is green, and your red, which is your hot. This goes to your ground rods, this goes to your fence, and you got an on and off switch on the bottom. You can put that just about anywhere that the sun, you want to make sure it's angled towards where the sun is. And there's a number of different ways you can put it onto the fence or onto the posts. This one is electric. It plugs into an outlet. And then you have your positive that goes to the fence, and your negative, which is a ground, it goes to your ground rods. And there's a test light right here that you can see flashing if you're getting a good system all the way around. Then also a nice little handy tool is one of these. It'll work on the poly or it'll work on the steel. And it's just, there's a tool that comes with it that you can just ratchet that, and it ratchets it up and tightens it. But you got to be careful of your grounding. This here is going to go to one section of your fence. This whole unit becomes hot. As far as if the cow touches it, it will get shocked. So don't hook this to anything except for your fence line. Put your fence through here, and then your other link through here, and then you can just crank it right up. Works good on corners too. Alright, let's bring the other video in. Hey, welcome back to the channel. So I thought today we would talk about electric fences and electric fence installations, and you know, kind of the do's and don'ts. So the biggest thing is getting the right fencer. You know, you can, depends on how big an area you do. I always get the 120 mile, but I run 4 strand and pretty good stretches. And with that, we just take and we drilled 2 holes for the fencer to sit on. So now the fence are sitting there. We've got a ground coming off the ground there. And the ground will go to green. It'll go to the green. So you got to take this out because there's a clip in there. Drop it in. Do not plug it in. Not yet. Now we're going to take this end that goes to the fence itself. You want to turn around and connect it to the red side. Once you have that secured, now it's just simply plugging it in and turning it on. The big thing with these fencers, and this is for you old-time farmers too, is your fence is only as good as your ground. And what does that mean? That means if you're not getting a good ground, your cows aren't going to get bit much, and they're not going to be scared of that fence. So with this one, we have more than one fencer on the farm. With this one, we've got it tied right into the electrical grid ground rods that I have here. That's fine, it's working great. The one up above, we ended up putting in 4 ground rods. Yeah, 4 of them. As deep as we could get them. And by doing that, that took it to a light bite till you could hear the fence snapping. I talked to a neighbor about this and I said, how do you keep your 300 mama cows in with just one strand? He said grounds. He said they recommend 2. He put in 4. He said it cured all of his problems of the cows getting out. So that's the big thing, is grounds. So now we've got this electric fence that's hooked to these poles so that they're not touching anything that could short them out. Now when it comes to the fence itself, that's personal choice. But having done both, I like the poly. The poly is so much easier to use and you can get a lot on. And when I'm using the poly, I can use reels. So you have a lot of different style reels. Here's one like this. It's simply set up, it turns and you can go. Same thing with this, just turn and go. Then you got the ones that have the handles and also the braking mechanism to stop it. So, and then I see an old garden hose reel. I thought, wow, I mean, I got a good stretch of fence I like to put onto that. Voila, it's got a handle on it and I can reel up a lot of fence on that. Stuff that I'm putting up in the spring, taking down in the fall. So I hope that kind of explains things a little bit better. You know, the best practice is get out and do it. I run 4 strand, and you know, it's a lot of people run just a 1 strand and it works for them. I don't use any barbed wire or the steel high tension fence. I run all electric. So hopefully you've learned something from the video. I mean, I'm an old-time farmer and I learned quite a bit just by talking with other farmers that weren't having the problems that I was having. So on that note, you guys have a great day and thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate all of you. If you have any questions or comments, put them there. I like to read them. I love getting them. And on that, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching.